Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. As usual, we will be discussing an important Arab file. Today we'll be speaking about the Arab Parliament, and the Arab Parliament has convened its second session from its first main session, celebrating the 8th founding year of the Parliament in its permanent state. We will be speaking about this important session since it has gathered the Egyptian Foreign Ministry, the Egyptian Parliament, and a number of Arab Parliament speakers who were attending this important session. They spoke about the collective work that should be done by the Arab Parliament in face of Arab challenges the region is facing, as well as hailing the work of the Arab governments in facing those challenges. They also spoke about the different files that exist in the region, particularly the Palestinian cause, the Iraqi file, Yemen, and Libya, as well as other regional challenges. During also this important session, the participants hailed the founding fathers of the Arab Parliament, as well as former Secretary General of the Arab League, Amr Moussa, and extended appreciation to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for playing a vital role in supporting the Arab joint work. We'll be speaking about this important session in our episode. Before we delve into our discussion, let's first have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion. Right.
By Israel and Morocco to normalize relations in a deal brokered with U.S. help. The president said that he had followed the news of the deal, which he reiterated that it would lead to more regional stability and cooperation. As part of the agreement, U.S. President Donald Trump changed long-standing U.S. policy and recognized Morocco's sovereignty over the Western Sahara. The White House said that Trump had sealed the agreement in a phone call with Morocco's King Mohammed VI. Morocco is the fourth country since August to strike a deal aimed at normalizing relations with Israel. The lead investigator into a catastrophic explosion at Beirut port charged outgoing Premier Hassan Diab and 3 ex-ministers with negligence. A judicial source said that the 4 were charged with negligence and causing death to hundreds and injuries to thousands more. The decision came after the investigation confirmed the suspects had received several written notices warning them against postponing the disposal of ammonium nitrate fertilizer. 2 convoys transporting logistical equipment for the U.S.-led coalition were targeted with roadside bombs on Thursday, with a pro-Iran group claiming responsibility for both attacks. One convoy was hit in the southern province of Muthanna after it had crossed into Iraq from Kuwait. The second was struck later on in the Latakia region on the outskirts of Baghdad. Both caused material damage, but no casualties. Yemen's internationally recognized government and southern separatists will form a cabinet within a week, kicking off the implementation of a Riyadh-sponsored power-sharing agreement after a series of delays. The Riyadh agreement, which was struck late last year, was designed to mend a rift between the Southern Traditional Council and the government, both technically allies in the war against Houthi rebels who have seized much of Yemen's north. But the deal has repeatedly stalled, further complicating the long and wider conflict between an Arab-led military coalition backing the government and the Iranian-backed Houthis who control the capital Sana'a. The cabinet would be announced immediately after a military recognition is completed within a week.
Right, welcome back. And to highlight the event that just took place, or the first session took place, and the rest of the sessions are ongoing, we have with us over the phone Basma Taha, our reporter to the Arab League. Basma, good afternoon to you.
Yes, good afternoon to you, Mona.
And would you please brief us on the event that you are attending and what is going on at the Arab League? What went on in the first session?
Yes, indeed, Mona. As we know, today the Arab Parliament held its second general session at the headquarters of the Arab League, and indeed it was a very significant session. It was headed by Adil Abdurrahman Al-Assoumi, and it was attended by Parliament Speaker Ali Abdel Al, Councillor Abdul Wahab Abdel Razik, the President of the Senate Council, also Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abu Ghait. Indeed, Abu Ghait said that the Arab region is facing many challenges. He also said that there must be quick response to these challenges. He also noted that on the top of the list of these challenges facing the region is the Palestinian issue. He also hailed the role of the Arab Parliament regarding the Palestinian issue, especially the situation in Jerusalem. He also said that the role of the Arab Parliament is significant, is very significant in facing attempts that threaten stability of the Arab countries. Also, Parliament Speaker Ali Abdel Al said that he's looking forward for an effective role for the Arab Parliament in defending the legitimate rights and facing the regional challenges in the Arab countries. Meanwhile, Councillor Abdul Wahab Abdel Razik said that there are a number of agreements that will be signed between the Senate Council and also the Arab Parliament. He hailed also the role of the Parliament. Also, during the session or at the end of the session, a documentary film was screened about the history of the Arabic diplomacy. Also, a number of sessions will be held throughout the day discussing the social, financial, educational issues in the Arab world. Also, I would like to say that during the session or the opening session, a number of figures who contributed a lot were honored. On top of the list was Amr Moussa, the former Secretary General of the Arab League. He was honored for his contributions in the past.
Yes, he was really part of initiating in the first place, or one of the founding fathers to this parliament. During this session, the Arab Parliament also decided to launch what they called the Arab Diplomacy Center. From what you have seen, how did they describe this Arab Diplomacy Center? What would be its role, of what the participants said? Basma? Hello? Hello? Basma? Hello? Basma? Yes, I guess there is a technical problem. Basma, are you there? Hello? Right. Here, as I said, that the president of the Arab Parliament, Abdurrahman Al-Assoumi, stressed the importance of the Arab Diplomacy Center, or what they have launched today. And during the inauguration or the opening session of the Parliament, Al-Assoumi said that the Arab Parliament attaches great importance to parliamentary diplomacy in light of its role in representing Arabs before the regional and international institutions, and hailed the founding fathers of the Arab Parliament as well as former Arab League Secretary General Amr Moussa. When we are speaking about this parliament, we are attaching great importance to the work of the Arab parliaments and the work of those parliaments, as said respectively here, to most of the world bodies and the world institutions. Also, this Arab Parliament is working on a kind of collecting the aspirations and the hopes and representing them to the Arab governments and representing them to the world, since the Arab Parliament should be representing the Arab nations. Before we continue on with our discussion, let's have a quick break and we'll come back for more discussion.
Meetings of the committees of the Arab Parliament plenary session kicks off on Saturday. The President of the Arab Parliament, Adel Al-Assoumi, stressed the need to move forward in strengthening joint Arab parliamentary work by activating the role of the Arab Parliament as a system that represents the Arab peoples and actively participates in drawing up common Arab policies, in addition to establishing an integrated Arab parliamentary system. This achieves social justice and faces challenges in the light of the developments in the Arab region. Al-Assoumi announced that a Center for Arab Parliamentary Diplomacy will be inaugurated in conjunction. He stressed the necessity to move forward in strengthening joint Arab parliamentary work by activating the role of the Arab Parliament as a system that represented the Arab peoples and actively participated in drawing up common Arab policies, in addition to establishing an integrated Arab parliamentary system that achieves social justice and faces challenges in the light of the developments in the Arab nation. On the occasion of the celebration of the International Anti-Corruption Day set by the United States General Assembly on the 9th of December of each year, Al-Assoumi affirmed that combating corruption comes at the forefront of the requirements necessary to achieve sustainable development and strengthen the democratic construction of countries, which requires addressing the phenomenon by imposing the rule of law and consolidating the principles of transparency and good governance. The President of the Arab Parliament stressed the importance of strengthening joint Arab action and exchanging experiences in this field to prevent the scourge of corruption that conflicts with the foundations and values of the Arab culture and disrupts the rule of law and strengthens the stability and security of societies, in addition to its dangerous role in wasting financial and human energies and impending development efforts, which is what it requires, unifying and coordinating Arab efforts and enhancing cooperation among Arab countries. He added that preventing and combating corruption comes at the forefront of such issues that the Arab Parliament attaches great attention to within the framework of its new work plan, as it is one of the essential ingredients for the success of economic and social development projects in Arab countries.
Right, welcome back. And to discuss the Arab Parliament session, we have with us over the phone Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon to you, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. And we're speaking here about the Arab Parliament session on its 8th anniversary. Before I go into this session, let me know from you, how do you view the need that that was there in order to initiate or to establish the Arab Parliament in the first place 8 years ago?
It's one very good development of the reform of the Arab League. We still need more reforms for the Arab League in order to make it much more effective. And thanks to Amro Moussa, really, who was highly appreciated today, the former Secretary General, we started to change the rules in the Arab League. In the Arab League, the voting system was unfair because to get any decision, you have to get absolute 100% vote. So one vote can be a sort of a veto. We changed this, that now the majority can decide whatever they want. We still have to improve this because one country with 1 million inhabitants has one vote, and another country with 100 million inhabitants already has one vote. This is not the system in the European Union, for instance. If you vote as a German, then you have 39 points. If you vote as Malta, you have 3 points. And in between, there are other countries. This is also has to be visited in our system in the Arab League. A very good step in the Arab system that we establish the summit level. Now the summit is supposed to meet once every year at the level of the leaders of the Arab world. Another thing is the Arab Summit of Economic and Social Affairs every 2 years. Now we establish also the parliament, which is a very good step, where now we can talk about the people's diplomacy. We reach those who are making laws and decisions in their own countries, and we are asking them to give their ears and their eyes to what is going on in the Arab League. And this is a very good step. We need also to improve this step because now the 22 countries are represented in the Arab Parliament. Each country is represented with 4 delegates. This means that a country with 1 million has 4 delegates, and the country with 100 million inhabitants has 4 delegates. This has to be also visited in order to make this system goes better and better. But I am so happy to see this. I am glad and honored to be involved in the Arab Parliament activities. Several times we visited many countries. We make sessions about whatever questions or problems or developments of the Arab world. And I think that giving our parliament a chance to see what is going on in the Arab League and the Arab world is very important. Last and not least, that we have now the people's diplomacy. We can depend on our representatives in order to talk to other parliaments, whether in the Americas or Europe or anywhere else, so we can make our voice here and there. And I think this is a very good step also, and a very good result of the Arab League reforms in the last years.
Ambassador Bayoumi, when we speak about the founding of the Arab Parliament 8 years ago, the region was not or started its upheavals, or it went through a lot. Today, the Arab world is seeing a number of challenges on all levels. We're speaking about countries in stateless conditions. We're speaking about countries who are still in conflicts. We are speaking about a big economic problem that is facing the whole region. How do you view the role of the Arab Parliament vis-a-vis the conditions the Arab region is witnessing today?
Exactly what you said is one more reason that we need every force we have in order to tackle our problems. Politically, the Arab world is not in a very good health. We have troubles in Libya, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, and we are attacked by foreign forces every now and then. The security on the eastern Mediterranean also needs our efforts in order to face it. So this is the time to use all our forces to make our security and political life better. Thank God that our economic efforts are going well. The Arab Free Trade Area, we call it NAFTA, is going well. Agadir agreement between Jordan, Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco is going very well. The Arab inter-trade relations is going not bad. even investments from Arabs in their own countries still needs some more efforts, but still the Arabs are still the largest investors in their own countries. But we are greedy, we are ambitious, we need to make this goals much better than before. On the economic and security matter, the Arab world is threatened by many foreign forces, and we have to stop this by establishing the unity in each country. What is happening in Libya, for instance, is not only foreign forces interfering, but the Libyans are dividing among themselves. The same case in Syria or Lebanon. We have to change this by encouraging all the patriotic elements in every country to see that the country is over any differences between parties or any groups. This needs big efforts, and I think Egypt and some other countries can play a very important role. Thank God that the Egyptian face is the most acceptable face in the Arab world concerning these matters.
Right. When we speak here about the Arab Parliament, which is representing the Arab people's aspiration, or should be the case, and the Arab Parliament is supposed to be meeting with world body to transfer or transmit the Arab aspirations to the whole world and to those world bodies. If we are speaking about how the Arab Parliament would approach those world bodies in order to be able to fulfill the aspiration or to convey the aspiration, and how credible that would be?
This is what we call people-to-people diplomacy. And I am quite sure that members in any Arab parliament, they have good relation with their counterparts in any other parliament, whether in Europe or the States. I enjoyed very much when there was
Ambassador Bayoumi, can you just stay with us for 2 minutes? We'll have the adhan and we'll come back to you. Just don't go. Right, welcome back, and back to you, Ambassador Bayoumi, as we were speaking about the message or the how the Arab Parliament meeting the world bodies would convey the message of the Arab people, their aspirations and their hopes, their fears, and how credible that would be. Please.
What I was just saying that I have witnessed for some time very good relations between our parliament members and their counterparts in the Americas or in the European Parliament. And we have hosted several times speakers from the European Parliament to speak to our parliament. That was very good, and it makes other parliaments to be worried and to be in full understand of what is going on in our region, whether it is in political affairs, in human rights, or economic development. And I am telling you, I am so proud about the performance of the Egyptian foreign policy that, take Cairo as an example, it is one of the most heavily participated by foreign missions and embassies. We are hosting more than 300 missions from all the world. Some missions in Cairo are bigger than our whole diplomatic representation abroad. This means that we are maintaining very active foreign policy, and we can use this. And I have witnessed very good occasions between the Egyptian parliament and other parliaments. And I think this sort of experience must be also committed by the other parliaments in the Arab world, where I think there are many parliamentarians in many Arab countries who have very good relations with their counterparts in the other world. And from my humble experience living abroad in Germany, in Brazil, in many countries, I see how you can affect the decision-making system if you are in a very good contact with the parliamentarians to make them know what are we doing, what are our policies, that all of us in the whole world have many things in common in order to market for our policies and our interests.
As we have seen during President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's visit to France, one of the important meetings the President made was meeting with the Senate, rather the Parliament, the French Senate Speaker, and where he spoke about the importance of having parliamentarian talks. And this brings the idea of how parliaments could deal even through the very, very critical challenges and convey the message and the aspiration of their own people through parliamentarian meetings. How far this has become an important issue, particularly when people themselves have to understand what the Arab world is going through, not just politically, but politically, socially. And we have seen the recent row about this human rights issue and the issue of the cartoons and all this. How far can this create a kind of understanding between people, different people?
Very important, and I think that you rightly said and give the example of the visit of our President Sisi to France lately. It is a good example to how you are using your foreign policy in general, and especially the parliamentary. And over and above all of this, what we call the diplomacy of the leadership. We were lacking for 30 years the presence of our president in our diplomacy. Now, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is traveling to Tokyo in the Far East, up to Paris in the West, going up to New York, going down to many African countries. His first visit after being president was to Algeria to salute the late president of the Algeria. And here we have an active presidency. Besides this, in his visit to Paris, he met the head of the parliament. This is very important. And as I told you, I witnessed how it is successful when you go to the Foreign Affairs Committee in any parliament and explain to them the situation in your country. Then they understand much better what you are doing. Especially that I'm proud to say that we are maintaining very fair foreign policy, that we are one of the most countries using foreign development assistance, and we are using all the assistance of our partners in a very good manner, which was appreciated by all our partners. Take the late declarations from many parties in Europe about the performance of Egypt concerning combating the illegal crime, which is drug trafficking, money laundering, illegal migration, and terrorism. We are doing fine, and we have to make the whole world, especially the parliaments, to understand and to know day by day what we are going on and what we are doing. This is a good part of our diplomacy, which we can make use of it and make our relation much more successful.
The Arab Parliament has decided to launch a center called the Arab Diplomacy Center. how do you view the center? How do you view the role that should be played by the center? What is this center in the first place?
Very important, and I am proud to tell you that I was working on this personally concerning the Egyptian Parliament, that we need a sort of a secretariat, a center of information, in order to make every member in the Parliament aware and understand about the details and all the figures or any sort of information he needs to know before going and talk about it. Even locally, if a member of our Parliament needs to go and to ask a minister about what is he doing, I think it's better to look to the real figures and to look to what's going on before he started to open the file. This also applies if you are going to talk to a foreign party, to make a sort of a brief to the parliaments about the situation, whether in our main problem of Palestine or the developments in Syria, Libya, and other countries, or our ambitious aims to make economic development and to fetch for partners in the whole world. This sort of secretariat will be a center for information and to supply all the parliaments and the member states of the parliament with all information they need.
Finally, here, Ambassador Bayoumi, what are the hopes for, or what would be the hopes of the Arabs towards the Arab League from one side, the Arab Parliament on the other side? What do people hope from those two regional bodies that are supposed to be playing big roles in the Arab internal status?
Yeah. I think that we owe the Arab League a lot. Our mass media is not covering what is going on in the Arab League and explaining it. On the total contrary, I read on many mass media or the Facebook, for instance, people who questioning why we are in need of the whole Arab League. This is unfair, because if you follow this, as I explained before, you have at least a very good economic file, development, investments among Arabs, and this has to be delivered through our fair mass media to the world and to our people. So what we expect the Arab League to be much stronger, to have one voice explaining our aims and our position towards what's going on and our aims for the future. And really, I think the Arab League must be supported much more of that. Frankly speaking, I am shy to tell you that the whole budget of the Arab League is something I cannot compare 30 or 50 million dollars with trillions of dollars on the European side. And here you are comparing the Arab League, why they are not at the level of such a good organization like the European Union. We have to support our Arab League and to maintain telling our community what the Arab League is really doing, especially in the economic and social matters. Politically, it's not the Arab League who is creating the problems. The Arab League is trying to solve the problems. So we have to stick to that, and we have to make the Arab League a good example of how the Arab cooperation is going well.
Ambassador Bayoumi, here, just before we end and conclude this, you spoke or you highlighted a very important issue, which is the political one. Indeed, the Arab League is supposed to be representing the will of the Arab countries and states. But the Arab League at one stand used to be a kind of mediator in terms of mediating if Arab countries did not have consensus on a certain issue. How far do we need such a role to be back, or that the Arab?
Good question.
Yes.
And this is very important point. Yes, I recall what Amr Moussa was doing. Really, he's the master of this game. He was jumping from here and there of the Arab capitals. Ahmed Abul Ghait really is doing fine. He is always trying to stress on solving the problems and to be the host for any parties in any country in order to make them closer. This part of the Arab League work is very important, to be a mediator, yes, but taking in consideration that although the Arabs are all talking Arabic, but they are not all the same. There are, of course, differences between the states themselves, the countries themselves. And here comes the mediator role of the Arab League, and I hope that strengthening the Arab League as a secretariat for the whole Arab world will lead us to what you are looking for, and I hope it will continue to do it.
Right. Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi from Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us over the phone. And that takes us to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. Next Saturday would be another Arab File. Until then, goodbye.